So, hello YouTube and I suppose Reddit enthusiasts as well. Richard Lewis here, just dropping a quick video about the Ellen Pao situation. Obviously she has left by mutual agreement from her role as CEO of Reddit, and I've had a few people tweeting at me, and yeah, alright then, do a reaction video, why not? Obviously me and Reddit have had our sort of ongoing thing, our love-hate relationship for the longest period of time right now, and I suppose it's fair that I appease you, the people that were tweeting. So look, I think right off the bat, I think we can just say that it's a good thing she's gone. Pao is a classic example of somebody that fails upwards. She's been pretty much deemed and proven, according to court documents, to be incompetent. She was well out of her depth in this Reddit role, as proven by just one disaster after another. And ultimately, while I feel some of the criticisms that were aimed at her were really, borderline racist, borderline sexist, some were just, of course, out and out, but you got to dismiss the trolls. I think for the most part there was this recognition that this is somebody who is just not a good person. I mean, this is somebody who actively held back the careers of women in her own workplace that she felt threatened by, while simultaneously claiming the same was being done to her. This is somebody who was known for having workplace flare-ups. This was testified to under oath in her sexism discrimination trial with Kleiner Perkins. That, she was told, you've got to just take a step outside and breathe to avoid conflict. Simultaneously, she was lying to everybody and trying to sell herself as this quiet, timid character, which doesn't match up with anything that was said. She's somebody who then tried to sue the same employers after she failed every performance review and was still promoted. She received the best support and mentorship along the way, yet tried to cry discrimination. She implied that a consensual sexual relationship that she pursued was akin to rape when the guy involved didn't want to leave his wife. She's been investigated for involvement with her husband, who headed up a Ponzi scheme that defrauded millions from thousands of hard-working people looking to make a sensible investment. And then she abused her position as Reddit CEO to censor people talking about her husband's case and about her sexual discrimination case in anything other than glowing terms. It's incredible, really, that she has managed to somehow fulfill both the role of a professional victim while also being the worst example of a workplace bully. The now deleted AMA of an employee who was fired for not being able to fulfill their duties due to having leukemia is a testament to that. Of course, then you've got the Victoria incident that famously blew everything up. Victoria being the employee at Reddit that was directly responsible for arranging AMAs with celebrities, communicating how it would all work, with moderators, confirming the identity, that it was legitimate of the person doing the AMA. And according to a few reports in the media, she was probably fired over contesting the commercialization of AMAs and not wanting to enact Pao's glorious vision. So it is a good thing that she's out. I don't think anybody can really champion that, or rather champion the opposite of that. And I was incredibly disappointed by the media coverage. Like, you can't trust tech media anymore. You can't trust games media anymore. There is this ideological corruption of that media. You only have to look at how it's been reported. We all remember Death of Gamers and Gamergate. Now you've got, if Reddit dies off the back of this, it deserves to. Now Ellen Pao's being lauded as being a victim of sexism. That's just how it's going to play out, unfortunately, in that sphere. It's an experience I've had myself. You're gonna have to work really hard as a journalist to get anything out there that's even remotely critical or breaks away from the sort of status quo. But that said, you would expect the mainstream media perhaps to at least play a counterbalance. Now, there was an article by the New York Times entitled "It's Silicon Valley 2, Ellen Pao 0, fighter of sexism is out at Reddit. Now, that's a somewhat grand and lofty term to apply to POW, given that, again, court testimony, court records, documents prove that she actually was an instigator of sexism. She actively held back the careers of women she felt threatened by. This isn't just a throwaway glib statement. This has now been proven beyond any reasonable doubt whatsoever. And yeah, it starts by talking about how she's a hero, and then talks about a gender discrimination case, and then it says the dispute at Reddit, which arose from the dismissal of a well-liked employee earlier this month, that's the Victoria incident, drew much of its intensity from Mrs. Powell's lawsuit and her gender. The attacks were worse on Ellen because she is a woman, said Sam Altman, a member of the Reddit board, and that's just a shame against humanity. Now, I'm intrigued to see on what they are substantiating that claim. I'd really like to know how they can look at the 213,000 signatures on a change petition to get rid of her and say all of those people are sexist. I'm intrigued. Like, do they honestly think that if there was a guy engaging in the same behavior, Reddit wouldn't have acted the same way? Again, I want to see some sort of substantiating evidence for that claim. Anyway, it goes on basically to talk about the apology that Power issued, which of course was just some wishy-washy, PR-approved, legal stamped bullshit that didn't really say a great deal. I think at that point it probably thought they were going to be able to ride it out for a few more months. But ultimately what you will notice is that if you go through this article, nowhere in it is the word censorship, which is of course what this is ultimately all about. That people grew increasingly disgruntled with Reddit censoring people's views, censoring their right to say nasty things about people who are overweight, which, whether you support it or not, that was a key issue. Barely mentioned, not mentioned, in the mainstream media. And here in this New York Times article, the word censorship doesn't appear. And I'm amazed at that, really, because this, for me, it's all about censorship. It's all about Reddit moving away from being a free speech platform to something that can be commercialized, something that's been sanitized, and something that is now starting to actively suppress dissenting views. That move away from an ideology that has been summarized as social justice warrior on the internet. I think it's a little bit more complex than that, but labels are there to be used, I guess. So, all of that said, okay, Pow's a wretched human being, but in the end, she is clearly being a scapegoat here, and the media coverage is still trying to portray her as a scapegoat that is almost like a sacrificial lamb, that she's been really hard done by, and that's not true. Her removal, and let's just be clear here, she is still on the board, she's still getting paid, she'll still be influencing Reddit. It's not going to change anything. And I'll summarize why. For example, I happen to know that Alexis Ohanian right now continues to reach out to big tech companies to discuss ways of monetization, especially including incentives that are based around Reddit Gold that you guys might purchase. There's been contact with numerous celebrity agencies about potentially monetizing AMAs. That goes back to the Victoria incident. This is all true. And equally, the move towards safe spaces is still going to be ongoing, by the way, under the new CEO's reign. They've said that quite openly. So Reddit still isn't addressing the disconnect between safe spaces and freedom of speech, when you don't need to be some sort of critical genius to realize you can't really have both. So it seems to me, again, that Reddit is addressing the failing to address the elephant in the room. Now, there was another post that Alexis made, and he said the bannings have gotten out of control. And I think that's absolutely true. During the whole POW era, if you want to call it that, shadow bans increased. Accusations of vote brigading without any substantiating evidence increased. People's comments were getting removed. Anybody, well, not anybody, but large numbers of people that were being critical of POW were having their comments removed, their accounts shadow banned. It was ridiculous. And okay, so we've got Alexis, the chairman, admitting this and talks about how he's going to bring him, back to heel. Well, I think the first problem we've got then is this whole Victoria debacle has been hijacked by power mods. And their demands weren't the reinstatement of Victoria, weren't the reinstatement of somebody like Victoria, like to appoint somebody like Victoria to do her job. It was just that they wanted increased communication between the Reddit staff, which of course ties in to self-importance. Don't get me wrong, I know it has practicalities as well, but let's be clear, that's what they're hankering for here. I saw numerous comments to the effect of, hey, the moderators are Reddit, we run your site for free, and we get nothing for this. The old arguments, we do it for free, love us, we can do what we want, but we do it for free, and we don't want accountability. Like, they just want everything, it seems. So, yeah, the power moderators basically hijacked this issue and asked for that, and a bunch of increased powers that could be used primarily for the purposes of censorship, which a leaked mod mail shows that these include the right to IP ban and check user voting patterns, among other things. And keep in mind, we exist in a time where we have situations such as a moderator of over 160 subreddits that deletes any news within those subreddits, which include world news, politics, UK news, UK politics, that are critical of Islam, because that moderator is a Muslim himself. And when I say is critical of Islam, I don't mean your standard white power Islamophobic bullshit. I'm talking about just studies that show, for example, where I live in the West Midlands of England, honour killings have had a huge increase. Or, for example, the number of incidents of Muslims targeting non-Muslims in hate crimes has had a statistical increase. These are just facts. These are just facts, unfortunately, and I'm sure there are white power groups that would use those facts to further their agenda, but we've got to be adults here and we've got to be able to debate facts. This guy, because of his own personal faith, is electing to censor those facts being put into the public domain, and he can do it across 160 subreddits. Now, Reddit need to figure out why that's a bad thing and do something about it. So, the fundamental problems with Reddit as I see them, that remain whether POW's in charge or not, are that they've not effectively found a way to monetize. That doesn't involve latching on to the corporate teats that are obviously dangling out there. The Reddit staff, clearly themselves, as a collective, are aligned to one particular worldview, something that was furthered under POW, actually, because she recruited on that basis. They were asked questions about politics and ideologies during job interviews to make sure they aligned with the staff that they already had. So now the Reddit staff will champion and protect the rights of those people who believe the same things they do to aggressively pursue it, but they will demonize and penalize others that perform the same actions that believe in an opposing viewpoint. You've got the fact that there still remains no way to stop moderators, especially power moderators, from ruining a user's experience by imposing their own views and abusing their position. You've still got the existence of shadow bans, which are a ridiculous form of censorship because they allow you to censor a person without the person on the receiving end knowing they've even been censored. And of course you've got the fact that Reddit staff simply cannot or will not define and consistently apply their own rules. And this is most likely on purpose, because if you do that, then you can't, you'll expose your own hypocrisy. You can't just pick and choose what you do when you do, which is of course the flexibility Reddit always wants. And that's the key issue here. Reddit wants to operate as it perfectly can do, as a private, independent website, and do whatever it wants, and it doesn't need to be consistent, and it doesn't need to be accountable. But at the same time, it wants to pose as being an open, free speech platform, free for all, come and do what you want, we're not going to interfere. These things do not match up. So until you address all of those issues, Reddit's going to remain the same place whether POW is involved or not. Now, the chances are and this is just me sort of thinking laterally, I guess, the chances are that this move is almost certainly completely pre-planned. I think they've had to bring it forward, but I think it's pre-planned. Ultimately, this was always going to happen. I'm pretty sure Huffman was always waiting in the wings to come in. Because it makes total sense to bring in an already unpopular character and have them do unpopular things. And clearly the board want this. The board want safe spaces. The board want to commercialise. The board want to sanitise. So you bring somebody unpopular in to do these things that are going to be unpopular with the user base. And then when the clamour to fire them reaches fever pitch, you remove that person in title only, remember, keeping them on the payroll as a thank you for doing your dirty work. And then you replace them with someone more palatable. So you don't even have to look too far back to see legitimate businesses doing this, major businesses, and see the business sense in doing it. There's a bunch of major companies just recently that have changed CEO, and I'll include some examples here. You can see you've got Deutsche Bank. This was just on June the 8th. They changed their CEO, and shares jump up by 8%. You've got HTC, who changed its long-standing CEO when people were starting to lose confidence in their ability to deliver their product. And, of course, you've got Twitter that put Jack Dorsey as their interim CEO after Dick Costolo had to quit. And, once again, a stock increase off the back of that. Now, what does that mean? I mean, you can see right there, it's not... you don't need to be a genius to put this together, that when people have lost confidence in a company, you remove the CEO, you put somebody new in, and then the idea is that they're going to enact a new vision, even though, of course, these people are just simply the spearhead of the board. They are just the tip of the pyramid, if you like. The tip of the iceberg. They are the person that gets paid all that money because they are the person that has to take the flak. They're invariably the person who has to stand down. And when they do stand down, they get huge payoffs and rewards for doing it. That's the price of being this kind of universal hate figure when things go wrong. But in all of those examples, of which were recent, you can see one thing happens, and that is that share value increases, faith in the product increases. People think, yeah, it's change, we've got change, we've enacted change. All the people that were disgruntled, change. It creates a new feel-good, like it'll be a new era, like it won't just be the same rules applied over and over again. And of course, there's nothing to substantiate that. There's nothing to substantiate that a change of CEO is going to be a huge change in direction. In fact, most companies generally tend to, go down the same road they're already walking on. So you can see all of these people on Reddit right now that are cheering like this is the fall of a tyrant. And yesterday, Reddit goal was at 151% of their daily target, the highest it's been for ages. And you can probably expect that upward trend to continue because there's a feel-good factor rolling back in. Huffman's old school Reddit, wow, like maybe we can all get back to the good old days. Equally, the pesky creator of negative headlines, Power, has been taken out the spotlight. So you'll see an increase in the number of commercial interests who are now content to be, okay, we can now throw some money and we can now align. We didn't want to get involved in that whole PAL thing, but now PAL's in the background. Yeah, totally. We're involved. We're more than happy to get involved. And this is the thing, they want to align themselves with the new Reddit, which is, of course, just the same as PAL's Reddit. And all of that is true because the real Reddit died around about the same time they got big enough to be able to sell their influence. So that's my thoughts on Pow. She is a scapegoat. It's good to see her gone. She isn't really gone. This is a mild humiliation, a blip on what I'm sure will be still a glowing career for her. I'm pretty sure whatever she does after this, everyone's going to be like, wow, if you want to get an unpopular CEO in your company to just do a bunch of shit and then stand down and have the people rejoice, Pow's your woman, let's do it. So I'm pretty sure her career is going to be fine. I'm pretty sure this is going to change nothing for Reddit. And all the people thinking otherwise probably might want to start thinking a bit more critically. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening to this video. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.